Good evening, guys. How are we all doing? How is everyone? Having a nice Thursday evening, or midday, or morning, wherever you are. Okay, cool. So, I'm going to kick things off today. We haven't done a stream in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to kick things off today by looking at the trades that I've taken since setting up my Typeform gatekeeping. So the trades I've taken the last couple of weeks since the last stream. And yeah, we'll go from there. We'll do a scan at some point on the stream, perhaps. Want to talk about some of the journal stuff as well. Some tweaks, some mindset developments, and yeah, should be a good session. All right, so let's get into the journal. First off, so was in England last week. Was there for 10 days actually. So introducing the little bubba to friends and family. So it was slightly more AFK than normal. So I wasn't fully on the ball, but yeah, we've got 4 trades here to run through. So we'll kick things off with Solaya. So this was a break-even trade. As you can see now, I'm strictly using Airtable for my journaling. Okay, so Solaya ended up being break-even. Okay. Just quickly before I get into the journaling side of things, can I just get can someone tell me if you can hear me okay and see everything all right as well? Just let me know. Yep. Okay. All right. ASJ, what's up? Iskander, how you doing? Okay, so Solaya was a trade I took 26th of March. The trade elements were a divergence and a sweep. So the pros of the trade, taking out final high. If it's going down, it's in this area. Could put in brackets here. This is thought over fact, not fact over thought. So it's always good to note when you say things like this that it's not actually factual, right? It's just your gut instinct and thoughts around the trade and the area that the trade is acting within. Strong momentum signals from the oscillators, wide 2-hour double divergence, tight 4-hour double divergence. We've got a bit of a fractal div here across the 2-hour and the 4-hour. Half decent damage, some decent wicks, okay? What do I mean by damage? When I'm looking for sweep plays, I'm looking for a fair bit of damage to be done, i.e. some of the traders that tried to get in with super tight stops got messed up, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So some volatility around that sort of level. Cons are strongest asset right now, okay? So we all know Solaya has pretty much been the strongest asset in my watch list anyway. So trying to step in front of a moving train and acknowledging that. Div is wide set on a 2-hour. Ideally the div would be tighter. I tend to like slightly tight divs, not too tight, but also not too wide, okay? Not a ton of damage done, okay? So the plan for the trade was take profit into the market structure defense zone. We'll set 33% limit and close out fully if there's a reaction. So this is the trade here. As you can see on the 4-hour, that divergence, and the div's not too bad on the 4-hour. Okay, it's a decent divergence on the 4-hour. What I meant by if it's going to go down at all, it should be in this area, is because we're basically sweeping the historic high, which is the only real swing high in this area. Okay, it's the only real swing high that the chart has, and you can see here multiple wicks. That's what I was talking about by damage. Multiple sweeps, got triple drive here. So this wick, and then that wick took out this wick, and then this wick took out that wick. Okay, so That was the initial setup, 2 hour plus 4 hour bearish divergence. But like I say, being cognizant of the fact that it's a very strong asset that I'm trying to short as well. Okay, so this is where I close the trade on the 28th. Closed out here. Gut tells me the trade is off. Usually not going to lean into gut, as this has historically been what's shaking me out of positions, as it's not fact-based but rather thought, which is another way to say emotion. And I strive to operate mechanically and systematically, not emotionally. That said, we have a clean hourly AO div here, price still hanging around where it really shouldn't be, and this was an attempt to fade the strongest market in my watch list of about 175 alts. So taking this plus 6R and leaving it be. If it nukes, so be it. I have to be cautious and protective in this area, context in hand, right? Context in hand meaning this is a very strong market amongst a sea of red that I'm trying to short, okay? So this was the follow through. I posted this today. Gut was on point this time, or rationale for letting gut play a factor is probably a more appropriate thing to say, okay? So that was the first trade, break even / small win, right? I've got it in the journal as a break even, just because it's not particularly significant, okay? Just whilst we're going through these trades, I'll move on to ton now, but whilst we're going through them, if you guys have any questions at all whilst we're running through, please do not hesitate to ask. What's up, Ange? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Okay, so fun trade. This has been the main trade of late, really. Folks on Twitter will know that I was stalking this setup. I've been stalking ton for a while, right? Ever since this impulse here, it's been very, very much on my radar, and managed to nail a great entry. All right, so we'll run through it. So taking on the first of the month, divergence plus sweep. Pros, very much pro trend higher time frame. At the absolute high, nothing else to stretch for. What do I mean by absolute high? It's the last high in this area, right? It's the range highs. Running 12-hour div into the level, okay? So running 12-hour divergence, you can see here on the 12-hour time frame, this running triple humped AO divergence here. Buy side momentum continuing to teeter off as price just stretches higher and higher towards that final range high. Clean structured 1 hour divergence. So let's see if we can find the 1 hour div. So there's the 1 hour, right? Really nice div structure. Okay, so we've got these twin peaks, these sort of pointy ears. And then you've got the confirmation and confluence on the awesome oscillator as well. So again, it's another fractal divergence in that we have a 12-hour AO div here. And then we have the tight 1 hour divergence for execution, right? So super nice setup here. What's also super nice about this trade is it's not reaching for any sort of independent high. It's reaching for the absolute final high, okay? So as opposed to this stab here where I believe I tried to take a trade in here and got out for small scratch. I believe you have to check back through the streams, but as opposed to taking out these highs here, which are really just within a cluster of other highs, this is the absolute final high. So a great place to do business. It's exactly where you want to be stepping in short. Okay, you just need the right signals, the right execution and trigger, and that's what we got. Okay, so cons are hardly swept on the higher time frames. So looking at this, it's just a very shallow sweep here. Not much damage has been done, but have catered stop for reasonable fuckery. Okay, so I'm in, right? I'm in, but I realize that this is a very shallow sweep, and normally in these areas there's more damage that gets done, which, as I said before, tends to mess up traders with tight stops that are getting too greedy. okay? So as most of you know, I do operate with wide stops, at least initially speaking. Sometimes I tighten, sometimes I don't, but the large majority of my trades, at least these days, are divergence based, and with divergences it's 100% best practice to have wide stops, simply because you can have a last leg, last impulse, some people call it the fuck you candle, which continues that divergence, stops loads of traders out with tight stops, and then continues. Okay, so right, so we've got these screenshots we've run through pretty much. We've got the 12-hour running area div, 4-hour just for a general picture of where the trade was taken, and then the 1-hour for the precision and entry. Okay, so these are just some notes that I made to myself as we come through here. So essentially what happened is, in this case, there wasn't more damage that was done. Could have got away with a much tighter stop, but it is what it is. Anyway, I wrote some notes on it. So I said, off to a nice start, morning musings, stop was very wide here. Perhaps now I'm going too far the other way. In the past, my Achilles heel was that the stop was too tight. It was that case for many years even. I understand the rules about building into higher time frame divergences if they occur, but what could a workaround be? Perhaps a second stab attempt or a 2-stab attempt, but main focus is to get win rate as high as possible for now to really start sizing up effectively again. We'll stick to current approach and maybe tailor down the line. Okay, so I use this journal for essentially just talking to myself, right? And if these things crop up multiple times during a month or a quarter, then they will crop up in the monthly review, for instance, and then perhaps I can take a look at altering the system. Okay, so I'm not going to alter my system based on just this trade alone. It have to crop up multiple times. But yeah, that's just an insight into my journaling process, my reflection, my integration, how I tweak my system. You know, if you tweak your system every time one thing happens, that can be very detrimental to your system. Essentially, you want to see that you know, that sore thumb stick out multiple times to make that change, especially if you're at the level that I'm at with my system, where I'm very happy with it. If I kept tweaking it every time I saw one thing happen, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this is a rarity, right? More often than not, there is a lot of damage that gets done in these areas, right? And to maintain a high win rate, I need to keep that stop wide and responsible. Why? Essentially because I'm in the process of sizing up. To size up, I need confidence to do so, and to do that, I need a high win rate, right? For the trade to be much more of a sure thing. Okay, so this is again particular and pertains to my system, my approach, and where I'm at with my trading journey. You may feel differently, okay, and if that's the case, that's fine. So third update, TP 20% here, taking out the first pitch or low, right? So this would otherwise be known as the first trouble area, and as you can see on the 2-hour, we have this slightly diverging structure across both the oscillators. Okay, so a prudent time to TP, all good. Not going crazy with my TP. So you can see I've tightened the stop up as well, as we're a reasonable distance away from entry. Not going to go nuts with a TP, but just taking a bit off just to realize a bit. Okay, if we do fully round trip, at least I get stopped out, probably in profit. Okay, right, so we can take a look at the trade now. Right, so that's where that 20% TP was. The remainder of the position, I have fully set scales, I believe, scaled bids here to take me out of position, whereby if price does something like this and runs through all of those bids, the remaining 80% of the position will be out at an average of around this area here. Okay, so I should really adjust this. So that's what the position now looks like. Obviously very skewed with the adjusted tight stop. This is not by any means a 16R trade. I had a very wide stop to start with, believing I was going to build in. So it's 3.4R down to the final limit to take me out. But let's say factoring in this 20% here, it is actually probably still around here. Okay, so 3R trade. That's what I'm looking at for ton. Any questions? Let me know. Some people have been speaking to me about stop loss placement, trade management, etc. So if you do have any questions, happy to answer. Pendle, 2nd of the month, 7 PM, divergence, potential sweep deviation, div trigger past the level. Okay, this is one of my trade elements amongst these, right? So liquidations, MSDZ, order blocks. Again, if you're using Airtable, you can customize this as per your system. Pros, pro trend on the higher time frames, a clean double divergence, right? So what do I mean by pro trend on the higher time frames? Let's actually just take a look at the live chart. We can run through it. So 2 hour in this area here. Pro trend on the higher time frames. What do I mean by that? Scoping up to the higher time frames, it is simply pro trend. We're looking for shorts. Okay, we're looking for trend continuation. That is almost always how I'm looking to align myself with the markets. Okay, so clean double divergence. Okay, so 2 hour div here. So RSI making lower highs, price making higher highs, AO making lower highs. Okay, so we have a clean double divergence past the level. This is not the absolute final high. It would be up here or perhaps this one. This is an independent high, but I'm happy with how independent it is. Okay, so if there was this high here, another high here, another high here, another high here, then I wouldn't be happy taking this trade because there are tons more highs in the local area that it could reach for. This is independent enough for me to take a trade in this area and be happy doing so. Okay. So div kind of pushed to its max, can div a bit more but not much. Okay. Cons a bit of a cluster below, but that part that formed the div, but that's the part that formed the div very normal. Okay, so this cluster here is kind of a semi-cluster of demand, but you'll usually see this in divergent structures. Okay, so that first leg of the div, essentially, so nothing too concerning. Okay, so it's a potential div play, so unconfirmed in that regard, right? Take it down to 1.8 is the plan, playing trend continuation for 3.2R. 1.8 is down here, okay, so basically, you know, same playbook as what we just looked at on fun, okay? So just looking for trend continuation, a sweep, a divergence, a deviation, play it back down to the lows. Okay, super simple. This is basically my playbook at the moment, over and over again. I put out a full form video earlier in the week demonstrating all of this in fine detail. Okay, so yeah, basically was just aware of the fact that the 4 hour was up here. So when I'm taking my divergence plays, yes, I'm taking my stab on the 2 hour, and I'm taking the amount of risk that my journal says that I can take for a 2 hour pro trend altcoin divergence. Okay, so it's quite specific, but I have a table that tells me whether it's BTC, ETH, alts, counter trend, pro trend, what time frame, etc., and then works out what risk I can allocate. Okay. So I take the full amount of risk for the 2 hour, but then also, you know, have to basically leave a stop wide enough to cater for the 4-hour div to happen. It may not, but it may do, whereby I can then add a bit of risk because it's a 4-hour, not a 2-hour div, okay? If that eventuality occurs. So what happened? Price came down, came back to break even. I wasn't very happy with it, basically, okay? Closed out here. Price simply shouldn't be interacting with these levels again. If the div were to play out by textbook form, taking a break even and being conservative, as that's the correct thing to do, regardless of whether it plays out. If it does so, I would have got lucky on a gamble, nothing more, okay? So with these plays, these pro trend continuation, sweep deviation plays, really we want to see just continuation, okay? We can have a bit of relief, but then we want to see that price just, bounce lower and lower and lower. This is not very normal, okay? So out for 0.05R or whatever it is, break even basically, and on to the next, essentially. Right, so a question from ASJ. How do you determine when and where to take profits? Okay, so let's go back to the ton example. So essentially what I'm looking for is the first hitch, first trouble area, whatever you want to call it, okay? So because there was no demand in here, right, this area, all this area here is just compression, okay? What that means is that basically any demand in here, any latent demand is just getting consumed as price spikes back into price and then continues up. So this slow grind is compression. It's an inefficient type of price action, basically, whereby you expect price to move quite fast through it, as it does so. And then basically the first point at which you think price could reasonably bounce at is this last low here, okay? So if you go down to the lower time frames, it's the last low here. So price could sweep this, deviate this, come back up, and hence why it makes sense and it's sensible to take some profit off at that area. If, for instance, this last low was up here, or even here, right? If this last low in this area, let's just say price jumped up and we only had this, then I'd be doing the same here, right? I might be taking slightly less to take profit, but I'd still be TPing some because it's that first trouble area, that first hitch. Generally speaking, with my positions anyway, I'm looking to let the trade do the legwork for me, and really hold them out till they close, right? So I'm happy to TP 20%, but I really want to see that trend do the work for me. I want to be patient, I want to be disciplined with my trade management, basically let the trade breathe, not touch it until it hits its target, okay? That being said, I'm also, yes, on that side of things, I'm looking to squeeze as much value as possible, but then, as you know, I'm also going very wide stops as well, okay? So it's a bit of a balancing act, okay? If you were trading with tighter stops, then perhaps you would, just keep that there, then perhaps you would look to take profit more aggressively, per se, okay? So different approaches, different strokes for different folks. That's just the way that I like trading at the moment. I like, basically doing the hard work by getting into the position. My success rate at the moment it's very, very high. As you can see here, all I've got since I've started logging in this new system is break evens and then one that's nicely in profit. I have another position open, ADA, where, like I say, and this is from weeks ago, okay, so this is the start of March, this is the Trump pump. I TP'd 20% up here on this reclaim, but I nearly just got front run for the final here. But as you can see, that's essentially what I'm doing, right? I'm just letting the trades, letting the trend do the work and just letting that trade breathe, okay? And that's basically the playbook, rinse and repeat. So for me, Yes, taking some profit along the way, looking to TP most of my positions really at that final absolute low. That being said, for you guys, if you're more novice in your trading journey, then it's a very, very good practice to take profit often and regularly, because by virtue of that, you lock in the wins, you compound the gains, and you start building up your account. If you've never started building up an account, it's worth it just for that measure alone. Okay. Anyway, back to Pendle. We wrap this up, right? Tau. Okay, so Tau is a fresh position. I was just adjusting it just before the stream. All right, so short today, first installment midday. So it's a divergence plus a sweep plus speed plus delta, right? So a nicely confluenced trade. So this was a position here, all right? Clean 1 hour double divergence. You can see the awesome oscillator and the RSI, very good structure. Taken out almost equal highs. What do I mean by that? We have this high here and this high here. We go over to the position here. So trade taken on the hourly. These equal highs here is what I'm talking about, okay? High delta confluence, so nice spike of positive delta, indicative of market buying being absorbed by limit asks. So exactly what we want to see on the delta side of things. Hugely pro trend, of course, okay? So as you can see, we're trading with the trend as all the other trades. We're looking to align with the trend and go short, okay? Very independent high on the hourly. Okay, so even though this trade's taken on the hourly, there isn't another high until up here, really. Okay, so very independent, no fresh highs to stretch for. Cons, the high was marked on the hourly, not the 4 hour. This is the biggest criticism of the position. So really, I'm trying to take most of my trades in these areas here, right? So the independent highs on the 4 hour time frame, not on the hourly time frame. That being said, there was a lot of confluence for this trade, so happy to bend the rules slightly in terms of the time frames. The 1 hour is still very, very plausible and actionable. Okay, if we're talking about the 15-minute, 5-minute, then it's a different set of rules. 1 hour is by all means acceptable if it's very nice, and you can see here by the stacked confluence that it was indeed a good case to bend the rules. Okay, so first installment here. In here, 6% risk as the new risk parameters. Would like to size up more, but I'm on a new path now of pure discipline. Can't deviate anything, no gate, no risk, nothing, right? Gates referring to my gatekeeping process. So I can't deviate from any of the new rules that I've set for myself. It's a slow and steady journey of sizing up, basically. So what I did here is you can see that the entry's now shifted down, and so is the stop, right? So a bit cheeky, right? Been pretty cheeky here with what I did. Kept 6% risk, right? But added about 50% size. Tightened the stop, and obviously the entry was adjusted. Okay, so kept 6% risk. Tightened stop. Right. The rationale behind doing so was because with this impulse here, you can see the candle closing in 30 seconds. It's pretty much done here at this level. The div is so far locked in that last, the possibility and odds of that last impulse, strong, fierce impulse of the divergence, culminating that trade before it then nukes lower, is the odds of that are severely diminished by putting in this confirmation candle. Okay, that being said, it has put the trade at much more risk, so we'll have to see if I survive this cheeky move or not. Okay, so those are the trades that I've taken, right? And you might be surprised to see that I'm not short BTC or ETH, right? So just want to run through BTC and ETH and talk about why and what I did to sort of reflect on these positions, or lack of. Okay, so Trump tariff 90-day pause news, or whatever it was, here. Okay, so as we did so, really nice bit of positive delta, which is pro trend, exactly the sort of signal that I'm looking for to get short in this area. Yesterday I was sick, number one, so I was embarrassingly in bed by about 9 o'clock, and the trigger on the 30-minute, let's say for a 30-minute divergence, really was at about 10:30, right? So I missed the boat there. That being said, the div, as you can see here, so if you look at the structure here and the divergence, and we scope down to the 15-minute, the div is much cleaner on the 15-minute. So now we're looking at a super textbook divergence here, right? These, as I said earlier, these pointy ears, the AO, and everything about this is textbook divergence structure to enter this position, right? So if I had been awake, then this should have been the play here, basically. That being said, as part of my pre-trade gatekeeping process, I wouldn't have been allowed to. Okay, so that's something that I've had to go in and tweak, as I've done so here. So it's the regular system. It's based off a deviational sweep. Yes. So basically, what I've done is added this in here. Okay. So do you have a well-structured double divergence across the RSI and AO 30-minute plus, right? So it wasn't really a well-structured divergence across the RSI and the AO on the 30-minute, okay? There's nothing really happening here on the AO. It's only well-structured when we scope down to the 15-minute. So I had to add in this. I added this in today. 15-minute double divergence, very clean, very much pro-trend, and only for BTC or ETH where you have pro-trend deltas to support. So if we look at ETH, exactly the same thing happened, okay? Not really very clean double divergence on the 30-minute, but then we hop down to the 15 and you can see it's just as textbook, okay? It's a super nice divergence here on ETH. You can see those spikes there, AO confluence. And again, we have some decent delta in this area as well, okay? So, well, it's up here actually. So, yeah, basically just a tweak to my gatekeeping process. If you're not familiar with what gatekeeping is, please check out, well, I've got a full form video on gatekeeping, and then watch, I believe it was the last stream that we did, on putting this process together in type form to really put together this structured pre-trade checklist that operates in an if this then that format, and you basically map out your system so it looks something like this, but it, essentially poses these questionnaires, multiple choice answers that you have to answer to get to the end, and if you get to the end then you can take the trade, but you have to answer those honestly and pass all of these gates basically to get there, which is a mechanical and structured system to trade within, right? So it's completely getting rid of all the emotion in trading, and it's basically just mapping out your system robotically. So anyway, just wanted to touch on that in terms of how I sort of tweak this as I go along. Happy to have missed this trade. I've garnered some useful information out of it, essentially, okay? So as long as it's pro-trend on BTC and ETH where I have reliable delta information, and you get the delta, then very happy to go down to the 15-minute to execute, okay? Right, so what should we do next? So I've got some setups that I'm eyeing for the rest of the week and next, so we can take a look at those, but I kind of want to do a chart scan. I haven't scanned the markets today, so I'm going to go through and do that. Happy to take any chart requests, answer any questions, etc. But until then, I'm going to do a 4-hour scan and check if my levels are on point. So again, using the 4-hour, basically just marking out the key highs, independent or final. This is the independent, this is the final. Alert's always at the first one that it could hit. So we'll run through some of the setups as we go through the watch list as well, to be fair. Oh, no alert here. So essentially what I'm looking for here is the market to squeeze, right? Heavy short squeezes. You know, for instance, take out this low, squeeze up here, take out this high, and then play it short. I would not really be looking to take many longs in this area. Again, strictly trying to align with the trend. And in heavily trending markets, which I believe we are, that is pretty much always my stance. Right? I'm always looking to align with the trend. So in bearish markets, looking for shorts, in bullish markets, looking for longs. And yes, it will mean that I'm missing out on some opportunities, some trade opportunities, but I'm very happy with that, okay? I'm taking less trades that I have higher probabilities, sizing up more so into them, and as a result, I need as much as I can, you know, on my side, right? Stack the odds in my favor. I use this AXL market in the full form video this week, talking about how I'm trading these markets in terms of like a breakdown trade here. Right, so there's quite a few markets showing this structure. It's also, this is the kind of structure that I'm looking for in terms of taking a breakdown trade, same as a breakout trade if we flip it. Right, so consolidation prior to the level, breakout. Just to the downside, so it's a breakdown. What about you guys? Any markets you're eyeing up? So these sort of setups here are particularly nice when you have these sort of equal highs here, very close highs near each other. Look at that, Jesus Christ. The spike. So again, I do have some alerts set to the downside. Essentially what I'm looking for, if I was to take any long within my gatekeeping system, it says that I have to be the trade has to, well, price action has to be moving incredibly fast. So I need extreme speed to validate a counter trend position. I'm happy to mark this here as an independent high. So again, not marking this high because it has this high above it, right, to stretch for. Therefore, marking this would be an injustice to my system because one of my gates is this either the final absolute high or an independent high with no local high to stretch for. And I know that that's not the case here. It is, however, here, as there's a huge inefficiency here, a big distance between these two levels. Again, this high here has this high here. Okay, so we have to choose this high here. Happy to mark this one. It's not bad. So like I say, system is looking for two things, right? Either short squeeze all the way back up to a high where we get a nice sweep, a nice divergence, give us a tight short position, or the breakdown trade, right? So the breakdown trade is like the AXL market I just went through. And I've got a few mocked up that I believe will probably trigger alerts soon, and we can start looking at sniping some entries on. I'm happy to take these. Just because there's a fair bit of distance between this and this. And again, like with the ton position, right, going for that last high, the final high is most certainly exactly where you want to be doing business, right? That's the most opportune point to be doing so, because there's the probabilities are so much higher when it doesn't have other highs or other lows to stretch for. That being said, there is a large bit of opportunity cost that comes with solely acting in that manner, right? And we have to balance that. Okay, so we're looking for stringency to be high, win rate to be super high, but then also not miss out on too much value as well. What's up, Lepidus? So that's ETH. Okay. Nasty sweep here, taking out these equal highs. So again, it's a nice level here because you have multiple highs in that area. Okay, it also makes it a very attractive target for price to run. Right, it's much more likely the price gets there. So again, that will be here. You can see a lot of underside retests here. Okay, so again, it does make it quite hard to position into the breakdown shorts at the moment, right? It's because this is a clean level here. We get rid of this and even just flip the chart for the natural bulls like myself. See the breakout trade here. Okay, we've got tons of consolidation prior to the break, exactly what we want to see. RSI resetting multiple times here. Okay, so multiple resets in that area, and then you get the confirmation candle, the breakout candle, but then you have to be patient enough to sit through the retests as well. Okay, so it's not an easy game at the moment playing those breakdowns. Okay, largely because of where we are in the alt market at the moment. A lot of the juice, a lot of the downside has already been had, right? So the meat of the move has occurred, so to speak. So 4 hour. Okay. So alert here. So when I'm marking up and scanning, I don't need the oscillators. Okay. Do not need the oscillators on the chart. It's much cleaner your eyes drawn to the right levels. Again, you can see the structure sort of over and over again, so these really are the levels that I'm looking for. Okay, this is like this here. We've seen it on multiple markets, right? Price makes higher highs, oscillators make lower highs, diverges into this area, set up the shorts, okay? Bring it down to the final low, that sort of thing, okay? Very much what my eye's on at the moment. What's up, Hassan? And let me do this short thing. Let me just get through these, and then I'll take a look at your markets. Just about happy to mark this high here, even though it has these, because of the distance in between. So that's another thing I factor in, is the distance in between. Right, so this is a large distance. Right, so 24 days. Now, why do I factor distance as opposed to height or purely height? Reason being is because it's about stop loss placement. Okay, so essentially, I don't want the market to have local highs that it could stretch for, let's say like this. Let's say we had all these highs here. I don't want other highs where essentially people that are short could have placed their stops at. Now, people don't tend to hang around in position for large amounts of time, okay? So it's their sort of time capitulation on their trades that affects where I'm happy to mark my levels, if that makes sense. So I have the final high up there, but you know, likelihood of that being taken out much slimmer than this, of course. So again, I'd be taking this high here, but even though there's a large distance, this is very, very close. And even this final high is very close, okay? So unfortunately, can't do so. Happy to mark this, right? So again, wouldn't be marking this because of these highs here. But then the next high from here is up here. So if price is to stretch, this would be a sensible point to look for shorts. Smokes. Yeah, I was in an MKR short from up here, I believe. Managed to close it out in the 1.2s, wherever that is, around here, probably around here. So happy with that exit. This is very, very nasty. Move got wrecked on, right? This is the last stream before last, I believe. This got me. Okay, so yeah. I had a bunch of alerts on these levels. Don't know why I'm having to redo them. It's very random. Does anybody know why TradingView gets rid of some of your alerts? Haven't seen that before. Right, again, so I wouldn't be marking this because it's got this to stretch for, but then this has this, right? So it's a nice distance and a sensible point to look for shorts. I was looking at this market earlier, alert went off at the high. I said to myself, should I look to even try and snipe an entry? Right, should I even look to try and snipe an entry? The answer was just no, right? It's just, I don't want to be trying to short these markets, okay? It's like the Solaire market. Right? There's a few anomalies that are just, you know, fully up only mode, right? They're in a different sector. They're not in crypto, by the looks of things. Yeah, no idea what's going on there. Looks like a constant TWAP, but it's not something that I particularly want to do business on. Right, why do so? Right, why do so? Again, you know, stack the odds in your favor as much as possible. It's within the same sort of category there. Time lapse on alerts, really? That thing? Expiration. Holy smokes. Wow. Appreciate that, S3. Will it then default to that from now? Let's have a look. Open-ended. Nice. All right. Yeah, because normally I manually adjust my alerts, so I wouldn't have seen that. But yeah, it's a bit of a nuisance. Anyway, I scan my 4-hour every 3 days, I believe. So I would have remarked them anyway. It's just a bit of a time saver. Okay, so am I happy to use this? Not really, because this is just, there's such a tight distance between this and this, even though there's a fair bit of time that elapsed in between. It's just, and then you've got this, and then you've got this, and then you've got this, which ultimately ends me with just the final high here, okay? So sometimes that happens, okay, and you just have to be realistic, right? You have to, again, just be stringent with the alerts you're setting. I say this over and over again, okay? Be very careful with the levels that you mark out. Be careful with the alerts that you set, because once they go off, your brain just, you know, you hear the ding, 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 you get to your desk and you just think that it's okay to take the position, right? And that can be a dangerous thing if the levels are not stringent enough. Okay, so this is one of those markets I was talking about. One of the markets I'm stalking basically at the minute, right? So I've got the alert set down here, and this is the breakdown trade, right? So we've got all the hallmarks of a potential breakdown trade here. We've got consolidation, right? So we've got clean consolidation here. Essentially what I'm looking for is price to come back down to this support level here, break down here, and then take the position, stop above consolidation, right, and then run it lower, okay? So that would be like a template position, a template trade that I'd be looking for. If we go to the 12-hour, yeah, that was a guess. You can see a clean RSI reset here, okay? Bang to the 50 level, exactly to the 50 level. Exactly what we're looking for in this area, okay? So we're looking for, you know, it's the same as breakouts, right? We're looking for consolidation, number one. We're looking for resets, number two, that often come hand in hand, okay? Anyway, Stalking, rune, alert set at the low, looking for that breakdown trade, right? A pure continuation breakdown trade, right? So this is part of my system, which I operate 20% of the time, the regular system 80% of the time. So if I go into my my gatekeeping, you can see that it's either regular or breakout, right? And breakout would then be what I tick. It has to be truly hyper-directional, which it is, so on and so on and so forth. But it's only 20% of the time I'm operating this system. The other 80% is the regular stuff, which would be if price comes out here, it comes up, diverges, like all the trades I ran through in my journal. That's the regular stuff. Rune is pretty nice. Yeah, it does. Looks nice for a short, if that's what you mean. Again, would never take premature entries, right? I'm looking for that breakdown, that confirmation. Also would have to tick other boxes within the gatekeeping system, such as is BTC incredibly obviously counter to your position, so I'd have to assess that in real time, and etc. etc. But you've saved me some good time there, S3. Appreciate that tip on the alerts. So here. Okay, so again, nice independent high to be marking. For those that just joined the stream, essentially what I'm looking for are short squeezes, price to come up, diverge, and then looking for the short setup. Okay, very, very simple playbook. Rinse and repeat over and over again. Okay, that is the, and guys, you're looking at all of this going, right, there's just two trades that the guy's looking for, right? Those trades that I just showed you, and then break down positions, and yeah, it's essentially as simple as that. Okay, I've been in the game long enough to know exactly what I'm looking for, and it's just a select criteria of a few things. Get a trigger or two a week, maybe a few, maybe none. That's how it is. Okay, happy to take this here. Not this, sorry, up here. There's the Dow trade. Fun position. What's up, Kat? Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate the kind words, and very, very glad to have you here, man. Or woman. Okay, so nice independent high here. Again, not taking this because it could stretch for this, so simply taking the alert here, because then it can't stretch for anything or much, much higher. Okay, so I sort of treat this as the final high, the absolute high in terms of my criteria, because it's so far away from this high. But this is sort of the, again, going back to being the most opportune point in the charts to take that short position. Sort of the same here, right, after this pump. Big distance, big gap between those two highs. Tezos getting battered. Just about happy with this one. Just. This would be a lovely play. Yeah, these equal highs here. It's actually not that far away from it as well. On ZEC. Again, this is one of those hard ones, right? You've got this high, but then you've got this high, then you've got this high, and this high, this high. So it's just this sort of domino effect that ends up you can really take the final absolute high. So mark this one. That's a nice high there. This is a nice high here. Yeah, very fair distance between this and this. Okay. Okay. So a cluster of equal highs up here. Very attractive. Very attractive. Impossible to place anything on this. Altcoin. Good short, to be honest. I was looking at this earlier. We didn't have a divergence in this area really. 30-minute, just about. Nothing on the nothing on the hour. What is this? Horrible. Hurting my eyes. If you don't know, it's like that. If I see anything that looks that janky, I'm just staying away from it. Period. I very much advise you do the same. Not that I can imagine you'd get any sort of semblance of a form set up on a chart like that. See, am I happy to take this? Just about, right? I don't really like how close price is to it, so I prefer to see something like this. But that being said, if we do get a solid divergence in this area, then I'll still play it. Okay, this is another one of the markets, right? IP. One of those rare markets that actually has a good bit of air underneath, right? A good bit of gravity that could nuke this chart. I.e. the chart isn't already at 0. And yeah, it's the same playbook. Right, consolidation prior to the breakout or breakdown in this case. Imagine this from resets. Yeah, same, exactly the same. Right, 12-hour bang to the 50 level. It's the same trade, same playbook. Right, so alert set down there, looking for that close underneath on the 4-hour. That's it. Very simple. How many more we got? Any more questions? Because I'm gonna take any chart requests and then log off after this scan. Happy to take this actually here. Just about, but happy to. Yeah, nice independent high, independent from anything here. Same. Final high. This is tricky, but it's what it is. Radium got absolutely smashed. Like next level Armageddon here. It was so clean, so strong. It's horrible to look at. That being said, I'll short it from here. Not me, thank God. Why does Altcoin not meet the rules for shorts? Just as per my system, I need it to be on the hourly plus, right? And well, that being said, actually, let's go back to it quickly. Let me check my system. Again, this was at midnight, 4 o'clock in the morning, so I wouldn't have actioned it anyway. But I believe actually I might have been able to take this if I were have to have been awake at the time. But let's have a look. So, regular system. Yes, it's a sweep. Are you operating at either the absolute high or at least a high or low that is independent enough from others it could stretch for? Let's have a look. Say 4 hour. Yeah, just about. Right. If there was a high here, then I wouldn't have said that. But just about. Do you have a well-structured double divergence across the RSI in the arrow 30 minutes? Okay. Okay, so I would have been able to take this, I just wasn't awake at the time. Okay. If you were up, then the 30-minute divergence is good enough, right? It's a good trade to take. I thought it might have been the hourly for alts, but I'm wrong. This is a fresh system I'm working with, so if I see anything that catches my eye and I'm like, oh, I could maybe take this, then I basically just run through this process and see if I can or not. Okay, I spent a lot of time working on this, and I'm happy with it as a basic skeleton for my system. That being said, if there are any creases to iron out, like I went over earlier in the stream, then I'll do so as well. Okay, but this is everything to me, right? That's my discipline, that's my system. It's you have to put the effort into constructing the system, lots of it, because if you don't, then you won't honor it. Okay, it's very important to do that. Stretching, but into what, right? There's nothing really, there's no area I can really, that being said, I mean, this is not the cleanest liquidity, but I'd be just about happy to take a trade in this area if it was a super clean divergence. We've already got the delta there, so we'll see. There was Sol. Yeah, the only thing I have to say on Sol is let's see. Wait, where is it? It's the delta. I did a tweet on this earlier. So every time Sol has a spike, any sort of semblance of a significant positive delta spike on the 4 hour, it's just been a downtrend since, right? So it's just capped by that absorption, whereby the impetus of market buying happens into the heavier, stronger hand in the market, operating in limit, in this case ask form, and then continues that trend lower, and you can see that we've had a significant spike here. Not as significant nearly as this spike here or this cluster. That being said, it is it definitely stands out to the eye, right? There's 3 points in this chart on the positive side, and this today, was it today? Yesterday. Is definitely one of those. Okay, and this may not look like much of a downside, but we're going from 300 here basically down to 143, and then from 178 down to 100. So percentage value wise, they have had huge ramifications. Okay guys, look, it's time for me to cook my wife dinner, so been lovely catching up. Welcome to any new members, and yeah, catch you all next week, probably around a similar time. And yeah, good to see you guys. Happy trading.